Hi, good evening. It's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, I wanted to talk about a few things I think that might capture your interest to do with our Earth, and some things that people consider, just mere coincidence. That's just the way things happen. But before we do, I just want to say a big thanks to our patrons, our superstars out there who are looking after our equipment for us around the world. Especially Tony, who I've just today dispatched another magnetometer out to her because there's developed a fault. And I don't know if you watched the video the other day. I said rather than just try and find out what the bugs were, I said just put it in the post, send it back to me, and I'll get one straight out to you. So I was waiting for just confirmation for her address. And once I got that, which I did this morning, I put one on the test for a couple of hours, made sure everything was working as it should. So at least I know when I dispatch it from the UK, I know it's in perfect working order. And I don't know quite how long it'll take to get to China. But when it does, I said just run it for 24 hours, make sure it's recording it onto the data logger. And if it is, reset it, format the SD card and get it back up and running for us. So that's what we've been up to today. In a couple of days we're going to do the latest magnetic pole position using our Trimag system, which is a bespoke piece of equipment. I suppose if you was to get a company to manufacture that for you, you'd probably be over £100,000 easy. The only reason why we managed to get our hands on it is because I took the time out to learn a bit of electronics, program it myself and build it, test it, modify it, and then put it to use. And that's why we've got the ability, and really that is why we've got the ability with a lot of these things. I mean, it's not just the Trimag I've built these magnetometers that go out into the field, the Luminox oxygen sensor. We built the program and put the equipment together so that we get a reading off that, a true atmospheric oxygen sample. MIT was good enough in the United States to make public how to build a muon detector, and we got the PCBs, the printed circuit boards manufactured and built those, and we're starting to get those out in the field. Just over the last week, we sent one out to one of our superstars who already got a magnetometer. We sent a muon detector out to him, and the muon, what I decided to do, he asked me to build him one, and he paid for everything as well, which was absolutely amazing. And they come in at around about £200 or just over £200. So he sent me the money for that, and I'm about 90% or thereabouts, just finishing off replacing that muon detector. Because initially what I'd done to save time, rather than me order all the components, I said there might be a couple of weeks way in waiting for some of the components, because one of the components, like the SIPM, silicon photomultiplier, which is the heart of the muon detector, comes from America. I mean, that component alone is £100. Gives you an idea as to how some of the costs run up very quickly on these components. But we're lucky we had MIT share that information on how to build it, what components to buy, how to assemble it, because otherwise it would have been clearly out of our price range. I mean, no one's going to donate £6,000 to the observatory for us to purchase. Well, I haven't seen a muon detector on the market. There probably is, but I definitely know there are neutron detectors, which is probably just as good. But muon detectors are detecting even smaller particles than neutrons. So I think for that fact that they're going to be more probably than £6,000. But again, we were lucky. Okay, so putting all the observatory stuff aside, what have I been up to today? Well, I can't help it, guys. I've got to mention it, and I bet you're getting really frustrated like me about this lockdowns, this COVID-19 pandemic, the fines that we can incorporate if we break the rules. It's just oh, it's got too much, and you know, the worst thing I do sometimes is sit here in the silence, and you know, I'm either doing some research or I'm soldering some components and I forget to put the radio on. It's the worst thing, I think, to be sat in silence. But other than that, you know, sometimes my mind wanders off, and you know, I started to look at a few things, and I don't know why I started. It's probably, actually, I do know why now. All this come about today, and we'll get into the interesting part, so just bear with me. I looked at the clock and I saw it was 11:11. This happens to me so much, and also the other number I see so much is 144. I see it a lot. You know, I mean, just to give you an idea of a random time I'll spot something with the number 144 on, is like I was just leaving my road in my car, and there was a lorry with an IAB on the back, a crane on the back, and the number on the IAB, or the crane, you know, arm, it said 144. I just thought, you know, how strange is that? And I remember being on eBay looking for something, and there was a car with the number 144 down the side of it. So, you know, these things, and I know that there's a reason for this. I really know that there's a reason for this. So, you know, I started to think about those things today. And I'll just mention this as well, because this is quite spooky, or it's you know, I think it's one of those things that, you know, the likelihood of it happening is so rare that, you know, you can't help but think, is that a sign for some reason? And I remember the last real total eclipse that covered this region of England where I am right now, and it went really dark to the point where the streetlights come on and the birds went silent, and the clock stopped at exactly 11 minutes past 11 in the living room. And I thought, that's really strange. Another thing, getting back to the number 144, is, you know, in our Bible, the King James version of the Bible, it's mentioned a few times. You know, obviously, if you're familiar with it, you know, it's mentioned about the servants of God, those that have the mark in their forehead, you know, will be, you know, chosen. And I think, if I'm right, they won't go through tribulation. They will be, you know, with God. It's 144,000, made up of the 12 tribes of Judah. So there's 12,000 in each tribe, and there's a total of 144,000. And the other place that it's mentioned in the Bible is in, again, excuse me, Revelations, is when it's talking about the bride, and that is the object that descends from heaven. Now, if you ask me what I think they're talking about, I think they're talking about a UFO. This object, anyhow, has a wall around its perimeter, 144 cubits long. Again, the number is mentioned more than once in the Bible. So I'm curious as to why that is, to start with. You know, I think that there's more than coincidence there. And, you know, just on looking into a few things over the period of, you know, quite some time now, it's been like a bit of a back burner research for me. I've found this number come up in some quite strange places. Like, for instance, you know, if you divide the number of hours by 60, you know, obviously, because we want to find out how many minutes there are in a 24-hour period, that number comes out at 1,440. And, you know, in the way we use numbers in the universal equation, you know, we add them up. So 1 plus 4 plus 4 is 9. And, you know, it's almost like a primer. You know what they was talking about in that Jodie Foster film, Contact. It's like a primer to understand something, but the problem is we can't understand everything about this, because we don't, we're not like able to read the binary language. And, you know, the binary language doesn't fall into, you know, a nice, neat strain of numbers for us, so that even if we was able to convert, ordinary standard binary readers that say like read CD-ROMs, the laser that reads the ones and zeros. Even if we was able to, add to the program to cancel out the ones and just replace that with nines, because that's what the universal equation gives us, zeros and nines. It's a binary language, but we just don't know too much about it. But if we was able to do that, we might be able to understand a lot more about our universe. Could open up a big box of unknowns for us. The 144 turns up in our 24-hour period. So what I'm saying is, if you divide the hours by the minutes, so 24 divided by 60, you'll get 1,440, which is the 144, basically. A couple of things if you want to just indulge in this, if you've got nothing else to do tonight, is just draw a circle, put on the top north, and then east, south, west, and then draw above the NESW, if you just want to use the abbreviations for it, or the acronym. Right above north, 360, next to the east, or E, 90, next to the south, 180, and next to the west, 270, and then draw another circle. Now imagine if we was not looking at a clock that had 12 numbers, so 1 to 12 on it, it actually had 1 to 24 on it. So where the north would be 24, where the east would be number 6, where the south would be number 12, and where the west would be number 18. I'm going to get to why we're doing all this very shortly, but I'm just going to for now go back to where you draw the north, east, south, west on the first circle. Something you might notice very straight off is that the 360 equates to 9 if we add them up, like we do the universal equation. On the east we've got 90 degrees, so 9 plus 0 is 9 again. On the south we've got 180 degrees, so 1 plus 8 plus 0 is 9 again. And on the west is 270 degrees, so 2 plus 7 plus 0 is 9 again. And 360, obviously 3 plus 6, 0 where the north is 9. Now our orbit around the Earth is almost a 360 degree orbit. For every 1 degree or 1 day of orbit around the sun, we are travelling at around about 1.6 million miles per day, 1.62 million miles per day, and we're travelling at a speed of 67,000 miles per hour in almost a 360 degree circle. I want you to just think about this. First of all, right, it fits the calendar perfectly, almost to the day. They say there's 365 days. I guess that accounts for just a slight discrepancy in the orbit around the Earth, but I don't think there's anything, well, there just simply isn't anything on a 360 degree orbit around the sun, quite like our planet is, in the days which are close to also the degrees. So we're doing 1.62 million miles per day around the sun, and we're travelling at 67,000 miles per hour. Can you imagine that? Much faster than the bullet. And we're not on fire. If the space shuttle or any re-entry vehicle from space was to come through an atmosphere at 67,000 miles an hour, it would burn up like a piece of tissue paper. Our Earth isn't blazing around the sun like it's on fire, and certainly it doesn't look like a meteorite. What is my point to all this? We're going to get to it, guys. It cannot be simply by coincidence that things like this all fell together. It cannot be even possible that, when we look at how many minutes are in a 24-hour period, we find that it is 1440, but if we add them up like we do in the universal equation, it comes to 9. The orbit equates to a 9, and it doesn't matter which way you look at it, it equates to a 9. 9 planets in our solar system. What we're trying to say here is that there is no way that those things just merely fell into the positions which they did. And I just want to emphasize just a little bit on this. Our satellite, our natural satellite, the moon, cannot also be just a fluke coincidence. So not only is our Earth travelling around our sun, in a coincidental pattern that fits 360, which equates to 1 degree of orbit every day around, around our sun, but our moon, when it eclipses the sun, from only the vantage point of the surface of the Earth, we are able to see the moon cover the disk of the sun perfectly. Now, how many coincidences are we going to write all these things off before we say, no chance? I'm going to go on a little bit more about this, because our Earth not only coincidentally, let's say synchronistically, is going round this sun, and it's going round it at 1 degree every day at 1.62 million miles an hour, and if you add up 1 and 6 and 2, you get 9. Yeah. So not only in 24-hour period does the minutes of the day come to number 9, but the actual speed that we are travelling around our sun adds up to 9. We're in a planet with 9, but we're also on a planet that has this moon, which we need, because without the moon, all the oceans would be stagnant. And from the surface of the Earth, it completely covers the disk of the sun during a lunar eclipse. And if we add up all the degrees in the circle system that we've come up with because of our orbit around our Earth, our sun, each one, north, east, south, west, totals to a number 9. But there's something also equally important about these things that we've been talking about, equating to 9, and I'm going to get to while we're looking at a crop circle in a second. One other thing I just want to leave you with on the looking at our planet and its orbitable path is the other thing is that the position at where we are with regards to distance away from the sun. If we was further away to a certain degree, most of the water on our planet would very likely be in only ice form, and life would never have got started to the actual, to at least the degree that it is today. If we'd have been again closer to the sun to a certain degree, most of the water on our planet would be in gas form, and again to a large degree life would never have got started, or at least bloomed to the amount that it has done. Now, over here in the UK, I do understand that some of these crop circles are created by people, and some of them just can't be explained. The intricacy of these crop circles are very, technical, and the geometry that's within them is, unbelievable. But what we're looking at here is a crop circle with obviously 3 rings of triangles, and if you count those triangles they come to 144, and you'll see inside there a 3D cube. But if you look at the 3D cube just carefully, you'll see that the end or the corner of the cube has been removed, and what we see is a star in the centre. We see a lot of these crop circles formed, and it must have been to a massive surprise to NASA when they sent the Cassini spacecraft to have a look at the North Pole on Saturn, we saw, something very similar in what was described as jet stream patterns. Now, to me, I think we're looking at something else. But one other thing I want to show you, I could show you lots of things. I've really gone, in my spare time, into a lot of these things. You got Metatron's cube, different variations of it, and of course the flower of life. But if we just concentrate on what's in the centre of that circle, I think we can understand a little bit more about it. So just concentrating now on the cube. What we've got here is the flower of life, and I've crudely drawn a load of triangles around the edge. We're going to get into that in a minute. But what we're looking at, if the cube, as we saw in the crop circle on the North Pole of Saturn, if we put this cube over the flower of life like we have, and remove the corner like has been done in that picture to reveal the star, you will see the star is in the centre of this, and you will note that on the petals going round the outside of the cube, or the outer squares of the cube, we can fit exactly 9 numbers, 1 to 9. And what's more strange is that if we add 8 and 1 together, we get the number 9. If we add 7 and 2 together, which are their opposites, we get the number 9. 6 and 3, we get the number 9. 5 and 4, again we get the number 9. Don't think there's any coincidence at all in this. I think I've managed to fit the cube perfectly over the flower of life. I think it's importantly been known about for thousands and thousands of years, and the reason why that is as I'll show you next. So one of the reasons I think that this is something that was very important, and the reason why I say it's been around for thousands of years, is because this photograph, and I know it's not the clearest of photographs, but if you just look at the bottom right hand corner of the photograph, you're going to see that flower of life picture. But what is more important is the pattern on the outer border of the picture, which is lots of triangles. I worked out how many triangles was there from the picture and what level of degree we'd got off the picture. Works out at 144. And I'm guessing, but I would imagine that the temple of Osiris in old Abydos, Egypt, dates back to probably more than 4,000 to 5,000 years, maybe even longer. And this pattern, some people have speculated that it was not carved into the rock, it was actually burned into the rock. They said it could have been possibly burned into the rock with some form of laser technology. I'm not interested in that. The fact that it is very likely original and dates back to the time of the temple, and the significance of the pattern is what I'm interested in. And if we just go and have a look at the next picture I want to show you, you'll see why. So I've got many copies of this picture, but this was the original one that was printed off. And the strange thing about this is I did not change the colour of the dots in the 3D cube in the centre of this. I showed you a picture how the 3D cube fits on the flower of life. I don't know why some of the dots came out red and some went blue. The colour cartridges was full, or they weren't empty, any of them. But for some reason those lower ones were printed red and the top ones were printed blue. I don't know why that was, but what I've done is I've recreated the flower of life, what we saw on the temple of Abydos. I've added those dots to give you the image of the cube that fits in there and the sun in the centre. And I've also added around the perimeter at each 12 triangle segments, which make up 144, the names of the tribes Israel that go around the outside. So each tribe, as you can see, represents 12,000. So each triangle represents 1,000. Again, 1 degree of movement around our Earth, as I told you earlier on, is equivalent to 1.6. I will come back to that in a bit. Doesn't matter in here. But let's stick with the point here that I'm trying to make, is that everything that the Bible talks about 144 fits on that flower of life. With the triangles, and this was found in Abydos, Egypt, probably 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, well before Revelations was written in the Bible. As far as I'm aware, I don't know whether the Torah, which was the original version of the Bible, had Revelations in it, or whether that was added in the New Testament. I think it was added in the New Testament, but where it came from, I don't know. But the point is, it seems like there's been clues left in the New Testament, the King James Bible, that reflect on what we're looking here. And the reason why there's those black circles in the centre is because there's talk about 7 pearls also in the Bible. The other thing is that not only are those names of the tribes of Israel, they're also the names of the guardians of the gate of this descending bride in the Bible. So this object that descends from the heavens has a perimeter of 144. It also has on each gate an angel, and not only are these the names of the tribes of Israel, they're also the names of the angels on the gates. And it says on the east there is 3 gates, on the west there is 3 gates, and on the south there is 3 gates, and on the west there is 3 gates, on the north is 3 gates. So you get what I mean. So every 3 gates there's an angel there, and certainly there is, as you can see here. I just want to mention Ezekiel's vision as well in the Bible, wheels within wheels, something he witnesses descend from the heaven. Well, this object does certainly look like an object with wheels within wheels, wouldn't you agree? The reason why I am so interested in all this is because I don't know whether it's just by me wanting to see things, and therefore I've eventually stumbled on them, that I have, or that these things cannot just simply be overlooked. There is something more than just a coincidence about just what we know about our planet and its orbit around the sun. We know that there's just more than a coincidence about its position away from the sun. We're very lucky to have a moon, which just comes to mind. I think it is the gravitational force of the moon is about 1.6, isn't it? What about if it's 1.62? Wouldn't that be just a coincidence again? Matching the speed our Earth travels, 1.62 million miles an hour in 24-hour period around the sun. There seems to be, if those crop circles are genuine, there seems to be, for some reason in this era that we're in right now, significant signs. We're also a point in time where we understand. Our generation is probably one of the first generations that understands a lot about astrophysics, how fast our Earth goes around the sun and things like that. We're discovering it out for ourselves. These things wasn't told us like they was told our ancestors. And when I talk about our ancestors being told things, I'm talking about the Sumerians, who claimed was taught by the Anunnaki, who were people that again were described from descending from the heavens or the skies, and told them about the colour of Pluto being jade green. Only in the last 50 years have we been able to confirm that with the Space Telescope Hubble. Otherwise, people would have said it's gobbledygook. They're talking. How can they possibly know? They never had telescopes like we did in like we've got today. How could they know that? But we've proved that they was right. For any book, or any story, for it to last the test of time like the Bible has, it would have to be unique. I believe that there's a reason it has lasted the test of time, and it's not just because it has been cast into a religion. The only other way you would do that is make it last the test of time, is carve it in stone, and that is exactly what they did in Assyria, and back in our ancestral times. If we go back to the Sumerians, they put things in stone, and they also, I believe, put things in religions because they knew they would last the test of times. Those, according to the measure of some theologians and people of their certain specific area of work, that is what they would say if you want something to last. So something a little bit different this evening, guys. I hope I've not bored you to death. I hope I've given you more than food for thought. There's something more going on, is my opinion on this. None of these things can we write off just as coincidence, because how many coincidences have we discussed tonight, and what would be the chances of these coincidences all coinciding at a specific time, say over the last 60 years of our knowledge, and related to the planet in which we live on. There's a lot more things I could show you guys, which would just probably blow your mind about some of the things that I've discovered, which are just impossible, And I've got to say this, for our planet to be on its orbit, at its speed, at its distance from the sun, with a moon that stops the oceans going stagnant, and some of the artifacts that are still on our planet, there is definitely something that we are not quite grasping yet. Let's just say that. And when you add the universal equation to this, again, 9s and 0s, the binary code of the universe, which tells us the universe is creating consciously, it's just, at this point, I don't think you can walk away from it saying it's just a coincidence. There is more than that taking place. I think we're in a real unique time, I do, because before a child can run, it's got to learn to walk, and I think that we have arrived at a point in time where we are about to run. We have learnt to walk, or maybe crawl, and we're about to learn to walk, or we're about to learn from walking to running. I don't know quite which one we're at. Maybe we are at the point where we've just learnt to crawl and we're about to walk, stand on our feet. I think that that's where we are right now. We're at the beginning of something really big, and I really hope it's not so negative as is described in Revelations. This is not the times of tribulation. It could well be. But I want to just also add to the fact that, isn't it strange, and this is related to what we do here at the observatory, isn't it strange that in the last 100 years our Earth has also began to go through a magnetic pole reversal? Why all these things coming together at the same point in time? Why the knowledge of certain things? Why is it like an acceleration of information, acceleration of technology? Why at this point in time has it chose to happen, and why has the magnetic poles began to reverse at this point? 780,000 years overdue, and now just at this period of time that we're all in, they begin to do it. I think it's a sign, personally. I think all these things are a sign. I think, when I see the 11:11 on the clock, for some reason my attention's drew to it. I got blooming out, there it is again. Or I see the number 144, you know, I think there is something, you know, drawing me to that. Otherwise, why else would my attention be bothered with that? But, you know, after a certain amount of times of seeing something, which you first of all say, oh, it's just a coincidence, and then you keep seeing it, you understand it's no longer a coincidence. This is synchronicity. You know, there's a reason for it. Guys, I'm going to leave it here. I will mention the link down there. If you want to help support us at the observatory, it would be amazing. And the links are down there in the description, or you can go onto the website and use the very rarely used donate button. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed, you know, this little talk and sharing of information. I'll say what I usually do. Look after your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.